Greetings one and all, and welcome to Storytime with Red, where, if you haven't guessed by now, I'll be reading stories to you. Now, it's not going to be classic stories like The Hobbit and Call of Cthulhu and Clockwork Orange. No, it's going to be quite different, don't you worry, don't you worry. The main source of entertainment is going to be, you guessed it, fucked up fanfics. Now, if you're not sure what a fanfic is, it's basically a fan with severe autism writes a story about their favourite fictional world. And there are plenty of them, and they are beautifully cancerous. Forgive the oxymoron. Now, without further ado, I would like to start on one I found a while back. I've been meaning to do this for a while. It's one of my favourites, so I hope you enjoy. Now, the world is of cars, Disney cars, yes, and it's called A Night in Motor City. Sally gazed out dreamily at the night sky. A thin blanket of stars attempted to peek out against the city lights. It was late, but she still had every ounce of energy, too much to sleep. Her first mini vacation with lightning in Motor City, she didn't want it to end. She pressed a button and the long curtains were closed by an automated system. Turning around, she could see Lightning across the room examining the door. She caressed every inch of his slick red body with her eyes and bit her lip. A wild urge was gripping her heart, one she fought to restrain, but the anticipation was beginning to spill over and nearly getting the best of her. There was no denying it though. Lightning was attractive, the hottest car she'd ever met. The curves of his body were so smooth and unlike anything she'd ever seen. He was eye-pleasing in every way, and sexually appealing too, that was nothing new. There was a flip side to it though. Could he be eye-appealing? Well, yes, he had that down. But could he be sexually pleasing? That was the question that kept her up all night. But not literally. "Hey Stickers, what are you looking at?" she called out with curiosity. He spun around to face her and grinned cheekily. "They left a do not disturb sign for us. Want me to put it out?" She laughed lightly. "Is that all you think about?" He smiled devilishly and turned a dial to dim the lights overhead. He kissed her briefly and replied, "That and you. Put it all together and I bet you get one hell of a hot mess." Sally's mouth popped open with surprise. It was the dirtiest thing she'd ever heard him say. Yet she smiled in spite of her shock. How could she not love hearing him spew such provocative statements? She quickly disguised her crumbling composure and shot back. "You kiss your mother with those lips?" Lightning stared at her, completely unfazed by the brash question. He tried to contain his excitement at her reaction instead. Her eyes were darting around, unable to maintain steady contact with him. At last, he was driving a wedge into the steel cage of her modesty. Sally was such a classy, well-behaved girl, but with a voluptuous body like hers, he had the idea she knew more than one use for a mattress, and he had a feeling that pin-stripping tattoo wasn't a symbol of innocence. He chuckled at her desperate attempt to escape the mood he was setting. "No, I don't actually, but I can kiss you with these filthy lips wherever you like." She gasped at his words, but it felt her heart rate jump dramatically. She watched him drive around to her rear as he made a point to brush against her side. Such a light touch sent chills through her body and she tensed with thrill. Then she felt his front thighs begin massaging the upper part of her backside. She didn't know what he was planning, but she let herself relax with the soothing motion. Suddenly, he stopped and pressed his lips gently below her tattoo. Still, she didn't say a word. She should have told him to stop, but the craving for his next action was too strong. She was acutely aware of his kisses landing lower and lower down her body. When he reached her bumper, he hesitated. Her heart practically froze inside of her like he was controlling its every beat. He let his tongue follow the edge of her bumper, and her heart resumed thundering. After he ran its full length, he paused to hear any protest from her. By now, there was an audible purring resounding from her engine, and he smiled with satisfaction. He wanted all of her tonight, and he was going to get it. Sally shrieked with pleasure as he grazed her undercarriage. With every passing second, he seemed to reach further towards her most personal parts. "Stickers!" she cried out. "Come here." Lightning stopped abruptly and drove back around to see her hood on. He was certain he'd been about to throw her over the edge. "What is it?" he asked, his voice still low and seductive. He wasn't giving up that easy. He wanted it all or nothing. She started firmly. "Are you sure?" Damn it, Sally! Lightning exclaimed, cutting her short of speech. I've been sweet-talking you enough. Won't you let me make love to you already? I've got half a mind to chase you onto that bed and give it to you all night. Hell yeah, I'm sure I want to do this. I love you and I just want... you. She blinked thoughtfully and considered his response. He could have any girl in the world, and all he wanted was her. He loved her, and she loved him. He wasn't going to try and take advantage of her. No, he simply wanted a night to remember. Well, she'd give him one. Her windshield closed slightly and she put on her best bedroom eyes. Smoky and sultry, they sent a grin across his lips. Well, I'll tell you something. I ain't your high school first, your one-night stand or any kind of groupie. You gonna show me a good time? He dropped his gaze to match hers and answered in a whisper. I'm like the McQueen. I can handle anything. What about you? A sly smile swept onto her bumper. You're in for it now. She flew forward and kissed him roughly. Lightning's mind quivered with happiness while her tongue boldly explored his mouth. She worked his lips like it was a day job. Not a single space went unfulfilled. He tried to keep with her powerful kissing but found himself in a losing battle. His body unconsciously rolled backwards but she never ceased holding contact with him. He felt his rear end meet the wall and let out a low moan. She was only kissing him and yet it was already better than anything he'd ever experienced. Sally! He managed to gasp after a minute or so. She pulled away and laughed softly at his expression. You're looking hot and bothered. Yeah, but you aren't. Turn out the lights. You can't see the best things, he retorted seductively. She crossed the room to the light switch and the room fell to blackness. Meanwhile, Lightning fumbled with the stereo and selected a track of music. He wanted something to amp up the adrenaline and leave an imprint on his mind of this night. He roamed to the bedside and called out to her. The notes of an electric guitar and the steady beat of a drum ran out into the room. Sally rolled her tongue and followed the music closer to the bed. You like this song? Lightning asked her as the opening lyrics poured out. Sally's look turned mischievous as she told him, I might like it better after tonight. Oh, you love it. His voice came unexpectedly and raspy from behind her. Her heart leapt inside of her as her body ferociously began to tingle. She felt him nuzzle her rear as he coaxed her onto the bed. Once on the mattress, he nudged her right side and gently helped her flip onto a roof. Her tank somersaulted and her body grew tense with anticipation. Then, in an instant, she was overcome with a new wave of feeling. Her body swelled with ecstasy and she gave a sound of appreciation. She burrowed her windshield deeper into the pillows as Lightning positioned himself with harder pressure against her underside. She let another sigh float from her lips. Lightning smirked with delight. Impressed? He offered in a low, purring tone. She mumbled through heavy breathing. Yeah. Lightning's smile grew further and he moved with the music, sending out the occasional rev of his engine. Sally whimpered at the intense jolts and vibrations sent through her body. It was sheer horsepower that shook her, and each time she thought it couldn't get any more powerful, he revved his engine stronger and drove her to higher bliss. Indescribable sounds seeped sporadically from Lightning's mouth. The grinding metal between their bodies lit tiny sparks from the friction. His undercarriage grew hot and filled his entire body with warmth. The chords of electric guitar streaked out into the room, covering his noise. Holy Porsche, don't let this end, his mind pleaded against his burning heart. He was being entangled by the best sexual sensations of his life. He felt like he was on fire from bumper to bumper, and there was nobody who knew just how amazing this moment was. Except Sally. He fell flat to his tires and panted with exhaustion, letting his body cool. Sally moaned his name one last time, and then muttered a jumble of explicits, none of which could be heard over the drowning music. At last, the song drew close and the room was eerily quiet. Lightning carefully helped Sally back onto her tires and rested against her, nuzzling her fender all the while. Sally caught her breath and finally exclaimed, Ka-Chow! Lightning laughed deeply. Maybe we should do this more often. There was a short pause, then she responded daringly. The night may not be young, but we damn well are. Pleasantly surprised by her answer, he gazed eagerly into her love-drunk eyes. Something told him he wasn't going to get to play driver this time around. He didn't hesitate to reply, I'll go find that sign. The end. So, I hope you enjoyed. If there's any fanfics you want me to read, then feel free to suggest them, and I will happily read them. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, it's quite difficult to hold in the laughter, but you know, you get into it after a while. Yeah, okay, and I will see you motherfuckers later. Peace.